Uh, All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of season 2, Unfiltered Race Fans Only podcast. Just me and Blake tonight. Everybody else bailed on us. Suckers. So, or fuckers, one of those two. But anyway,
Oh, you mean
we coming
hour
off of,
because of that?
yep, I got to keep up for Chris, get at least one F
Yeah.
bomb in there. So,
Yeah.
we're coming off of another triple header weekend, second one in the row to open the season. Trucks, Grand National, and Cup all at Atlanta, the repaved Atlanta. Good weather overall all weekend for us. We were able to get all the races in. Granted, one did not get in its true form, and we'll cover that. But definitely lots of different kinds of chaos all weekend. And depending on what you're looking for, I think each of the three races definitely had something for everybody. So with that, we can start with the truck weekend. First, Kyle Busch wins again. Um, Unfortunately, he wasn't able to, do his traditional Kyle Busch sweep for the weekend for him, but nonetheless, he wins in trucks, continues his streak, his, numbers of being the winningest truck driver in NASCAR history. So with that, we'll start with, and then we had a lot of A-listers in the truck field. So what'd you think of the truck race, Blake?
In my opinion, the truck race was the best race of the weekend. Um, the freight racing 208 was well, I guess it wasn't 208 because they were about 12 laps short. But anyway, I thought it was a great race. I liked the fact that it didn't stay completely single file, but there was 3 to 4 strong trucks, and it looked like the old Daytona and Talladega, where if you had one of those vehicles, you could stay up front and you could lead the lane and not have to worry about somebody getting a push and getting by you because your truck was so strong. The 99 was just amazing. I don't know where that came from. He hasn't really shown anything for about 2 years,
Yeah,
and just out of
yeah, Ben
nowhere, I
Rhodes did
guess
really well.
Ben Rose, the Todd Majeski 88, that
Yep.
they looked great. Maybe they did a lot of work over the off season for those style tracks, maybe for everything, but he looked good, and it's crazy that not only did stage one go caution free, stage two also went caution free. In stage one, there was 2 spins, single car spins, no caution. It was breath. It was a breath of fresh air to see that they let them run it out to the conclusion without throwing caution for it. I don't know if the weather had anything to do, or like trying to get the race in had anything to do with that. But regardless, if a car spins and they're not in harm's way, keep it in your pants.
Yep. Yep, I'm glad they let it play out. I was disappointed we switched to a timed finale versus letting them run all the laps. I can kind of understand when you're trying to get everything in due to the weather that rained out. Cup qualifying and practice, so you got to make the best use of the time you have to try and get it all in. And we, for the most part, did. Um, I'll say that the one thing I enjoyed about the timed versus
Fuck.
laps basis is once you switch to that, you don't know which lap could be the last because you're racing a clock versus a number on a pole. So you do see drivers get more aggressive because they're going to go until somebody drops that flag. And I enjoyed that part of it, listening to it and watching it, on the radio. I think it was MRN or PRN this weekend, listening to it versus watching on TV. Like it sounded insane on the radio. So if you were listening to it on the radio while you're out, it was very entertaining. Listen to them make those calls. So, um, and again, we got our the track. The track continues to age as we've expected. The cars and trucks continue to string out a little bit more each time we go there, and we saw that through the weekend. Which leads to bigger runs, but also we're slowly trending back towards the old Atlanta style where you run high in the corner and then diamond it off low. So you can see the writing on the wall that we're heading
Yep.
back towards the golden age of Atlanta. So the people that like the drafting style Atlanta, your time there is numbered unless they manipulate the cars and trucks, because that package is only good as long as the asphalt is a certain way. And then you're going to have to do something to the vehicle, to the aero package, to keep it that way, because the asphalt's not playing along. Atlanta's rough, extreme summers and harsh winters are, very much just like a Darlington, impacting that asphalt at a rapid rate. So,
Yeah.
um, anything else you want
Uh,
to say about the truck race before we go into the
well,
next one?
two
Yep.
things. They both involve the 99.
Okay.
Uh, Something that could have really changed the race, the ending of the race quite a bit, is the fact that he ran out of gas with two to go in the end of stage two. Uh, and then right with about 5 or 6 laps to go in the race, he comes out of nowhere, and I wrote down on my notes here, he's a maniac. He went to I think it was outside of Kyle Busch, and just made this insane move, and it worked. And then Kyle Busch was a maniac right back, got
Yep.
the lead back, and never relented it.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Yeah. When he made that move, I was like, oh. I was like, Kyle might come up short here.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, but the fact that there was only one caution for cause in the truck race
mhm.
on a drafting track, that's insane. That's awesome. Good for them.
Yep.
O'Reilly and definitely Cup could have learned a lot from them,
Yeah.
because they somehow, I don't know what got into everybody, but one wreck, and that was in the beginning of stage three. That was crazy to see. And like I said, we saw a great ending of that one, and it was by far my favorite of the weekend. I thought I wrote down here Hocevar's growing up, but tonight he kind of I got to scratch that out,
I
because he
when we get to that, we'll talk. We definitely will talk
he
about that, because
does.
I'm Team Hocevar right now. Like I like what I see, and I'll give my reasons why. I mean, I definitely think there's some maturing to do still, but he raced very well in the truck race. Um, like I mentioned at the beginning, there were a lot of heavy hitters in there. You had Chastain calling the truck race, but you had Hocevar in the truck race. You had Stenhouse in the truck race, Kyle Busch in the truck race. There was one more, right? I'm trying to remember who. When there was one more Cup guy in there.
For the talking points.
No, for the truck race, just like in terms of the in the seat.
Stenhouse, Hocevar, and Chastain, I think is all.
Chastain called the truck race. He raced
Uh,
the the Grand National.
okay, I got something mixed up.
So either way, again, having those caliber of people in there, especially people that two of which have won a ton of races in the truck race and or won plate races consistently, is good for them. It teaches them, those new ones at the lower level, good racing etiquette, but also, just overall um, driving discipline and race. What do I want to call it? Normally, I can come up with the name, but I can't. Racecraft. There we go. So um, that was good. All right, so let's move on to our second
Grand
race,
National.
same day, Grand National, toward the afternoon and into the evening. Um, you know, Eventful, and it looked like Austin Hill wasn't going to be denied again. And Ross Chastain did what Watermelon Man does and said, "Well, if you guys don't want to pass him, we'll just wreck him."
Yeah,
And it was a wreck that didn't wreck. But
I
I
want
do attribute that to Austin Hill with how he likes to block all the lanes all the time. Chastain got a push, dove down there, and Hill basically wrecked himself off his nose. Too big a run, which this track does create compared to others. It creates a lot of really big runs. We saw that with each race through the weekend. So, um,
yeah.
so what are your thoughts on the Grand National race?
Wait, I gotta apologize to all the people that do listen to us that went out to, you know, put money down on Austin Hill, because I might have lost a little bit of money. I put the juju on him.
I
Set the
mean,
betting
he was
on.
looking like it until
Yeah,
that happened. I mean, it's not a bad bet. Just you know, this one
I
you
mean,
have
if he doesn't
more.
have the push from Sheldon Creed, that
Yeah.
doesn't happen. So
Yep.
um, it was a good race. Definitely a lot of crazy action. Before I get to the race, I just want to tell everybody that the fact that McMurray and Klingerman are doing it remote from Charlotte, any race remote, is just stupid to me.
Yeah.
There, you call a race better when you're actually at the track and you can look at what's going on. And the fact that they're remote just kind of aggravated me from the start. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Yeah. The
realize
things
they're
they learned at
remote.
COVID about consolidated broadcasting have not been good for broadcasting in my mind.
Yeah,
It might be good for the broadcasters' pocketbooks, but it's not good when, and you've heard you've heard Harvick and Dale Jr. and all those guys talk about it before, where they want you to call what's on the screen, not what's out your front glass.
yeah.
Well, what's out the front glass shows you the whole picture, and what's on the screen, you're restricted to what the TV partners want to show with their cameramen and the narrative they want to paint. So a lot of times you miss the important battles that are going on throughout the entire track, and that's not a good thing in my mind or yours. So,
Yeah.
and it's not a good thing in theirs because, or they wouldn't speak up about it. So,
Uh,
definitely something I would like to see changed. But this is one of those Larry Mack-isms where they'll die on their sword of you can't unlearn what's been learned, and in this case, they're not going to unlearn the cost savings of just like they did with Race Hub and total CGI stage and everything else that eventually, um, I think, was a large part of the downfall of the program. At the end of the day, being on like a green screen stage versus a genuine, you know, atmospheric stage that then builds the authenticity of the program. So
so, so as far as the race, like I said, it was a good race. Sheldon Creed finally gets him a win. Probably, I think he had the most second place finishes ever till he got a win. So that's
yeah,
pretty neat that we don't have to worry about that stat anymore. Um, but the race itself was essentially the tale of two Hendrick cars. The
yeah,
HendrickCars.com cars, and you had Raja, who was calm and cool and made a couple really good saves, and then you had Corey Day, who was uh, uh a pen without a wheel,
yeah.
just he causing all sorts of shit, and then he still finishes top five. So like, I kind of don't know how to take him at the moment. Like,
I don't
is
care
he in
for him,
over his head?
but
Is
that's
he in
just
over
me.
his head, or is he, is he got kind of some Hocevar in him, or is he just because he's still new and fresh and like, I don't know. He's definitely making a lot of people angry at this point. He caused two or three wrecks yesterday, and just I mean, I know he was in three cautions, so like, you know, he
It's
probably
kind of
needs
like the
some.
divorce deal.
Yeah,
One, okay, it's anybody. Two, it's starting to lean toward possibly your direction. Three, it's definitely your fault.
yeah.
So in this case,
So
it's definitely his fault. There were a lot of people, like you said, not very pleased with him. The person I feel bad for, though, in that deal is Roger Carruth. I worry somebody's going to take him out thinking he's Corey Day and be like, oops, my bad.
yeah,
When Raj ain't
I
done nothing
agree
wrong.
100%.
Yep.
He's gonna
Raj is
get.
going to be sitting there like, what the hell did I do?
Yeah,
Raj is doing it the right way. He's clawing his way through there. Should definitely have a full time ride, but um, and is deserving of the space he's got at JRM, and he's
well,
continuing to improve. Um,
I am I am starting to wonder. I don't know. I don't remember when the first race is for whoever the Hendrick driver is. But right now, Raja's 22 points out of the lead in second. Like, they might have to change something around and go, hey, let's not let's not take him out of it. Let's put the Hendrick boys in the 32 car instead, and just you know bring the car out of Junior Motorsports, but you know change it around a little bit, because if he keeps, I mean, I know it's two drafting tracks, but he's in the 88. The car is going to run good, and I don't know.
yeah, I agree with you. I'd hate to see him accumulate all those points only to not be eligible because of all the driver shuffle.
Well,
I'm
he's going to
hopeful that
be racing the whole season, just not in the
right,
same car.
right. I agree. Um, I would love to see them. It kind of reminds me a lot of Josh Berry when he got in there. There was only originally like a scheduled handful of races, and because he performed so well, they kept tacking him on and on and on. So I'm agreeing with you that I think it would be foolish to take him out of while he's this high in the points, and we already know how vital these points are going to be, to not disturb those points accumulated. Be like, look, we need to capitalize on the performance and where it's at, and we can reevaluate this situation later down the line if we need to. But there's no reason to basically cut our nose off.
Yeah. What do you think about Austin Hill's save?
That was a hell of a save. It reminded me a lot of the Kyle Busch save at Daytona back in the
Yeah. Yeah.
car, where he gets down on the apron and basically gets back in line. It's just a shorter, since it's not as wide a curve, he wasn't able to blend right back, but
Yeah.
he's still incredible save. And yeah, way to go, Sheldon Creed, finally breaking through. He was always coming up second. It was a matter of time, but after so many years of it, you're like, what does this guy have to do? Because he's just always like that close.
Yeah.
So, and then good for Haas factory team. That's their first win under Chevy, since
Yeah.
switching forward. So they need a positive momentum piece after last year. Now I will say once again, Sam Mayer, bonehead that he is, doing Sam Mayer things. He wonders why he's not in a cup car. I mean, and again, I can make the same case about Hocevar, who is in a cup car and is equally as reckless as Sam Mayer at the same number of times. So, but I think there's only room for one of those guys in the Cup Series. Two of them would be like, ooh, you
Yeah.
might see the NASCAR of old come out where those old veteran drivers start whooping some ass. So,
I gotta give Austin Hill kind of a high five for this too. We all probably thought he was still angry with Sheldon Creed from 2 years ago from
yeah,
Martinsville, but to see him in victory lane, congratulating him on national television, that was cool to see. I guess
yeah,
that's water under the bridge. It was good to see him congratulate him. You didn't know whether or not that was still bad blood or not. Now you know
yeah.
it's not.
And we can rewind a year to Indy, where Austin Hill gets knocked out of the lead, and he comes back and he turns Almirola into the wall. Well, Austin Hill got knocked out of the lead in this race, and when he blended back into traffic, not only did he show excellent car control, but he didn't lose his cool and take anybody with him or cause a bigger. We were still able to finish the race. There was no necessary need for a caution there because he didn't just slide back up and take everybody out. So you see maturity and change in Austin Hill across multiple levels there.
Yeah.
So anything else with that one before we move on to the main event?
I don't believe so.
All right. So we get, as I mentioned earlier, we got no practice, no qualifying. We got cold temperatures and super windy day. So, they kick off the
But it
race.
was beautiful there.
Beautiful. It was clear, but just cold and windy. And with these cars and how on edge they are, I got to be honest, the fact that they made it through stage one without incident, I was very impressed by the entire field because I was expecting, being that nobody had any track time, somebody to push the issue early when they shouldn't and step over the line, or wind to catch the car, off kilter and something to happen. And none of that happened. We didn't really lose our minds till we got to stage two. So, yeah. What'd you think about the first third of the race?
Well, the first stage, like you said, host or caution free. Looking back now, seeing Hocevar with a flat tire and going 2 laps down, and he's able to come back and finish in the
Yes.
top five is kind of crazy. I wrote a note. Track looks worn enough to put higher horsepower. Now I don't know about 670, but we're at five. Are we at 510 or 550
I think
on?
they're at 550. Could be
I
wrong,
want
but
to
I
say it's
believe they're at
510.
550.
550 was our package for mile and a halfs.
Yeah.
So I want to say it's 510, but bump them up 50 horsepower, wherever they're at, and cut the spoiler in half and let them rip. Because they're having to slow down for the corner with this package. They're
Mhm.
having to let up. So if they're having to let up with this package, they'll have to let up with a higher horsepower package, and we'll get some separation. I know probably half the fan base and probably yourself doesn't want that. I know you said before we started you love today, and there was parts of today that I liked, but to kind of foreshadow here, when 32 of 38 cars are wrecked with incident throughout a 400-mile race, that's just ridiculous. I know it's driver cause and some of it's track, but mainly driver cause. It I don't see how as a sport you can look at that and go cost savings.
Yeah,
Two hundred fifty
I'm
thousand
with you.
dollar cars, 32 of 38, $250,000 cars were damaged in some way.
Yeah. Um, so to that, I mean, so we had a lot of cautions in stage two for various things. Kyle Busch just kind of got shot out of nowhere. The Toyota guys took each other out there. Um, just a lot of little things that are a byproduct of mostly a byproduct of the closing rate with this car, this package at this track because it's got a tighter radius than um, a than what you see at Daytona and Talladega with the bigger, wider sweeping corners in stage two. Absolutely, like you said, very impressed that Hocevar was able to go from 2 laps down to back on the lead lap, to scoring stage
He,
points, and to
he
finishing.
was back on the lead lap by after the first caution in stage two.
Yep,
So,
to being in the contention, especially once you got the 4 tires. Being in contention to win this race up until the very end. And at one point, I really thought he was going to, but he just made some badly timed moves, some with some assistance, some that are just Hocevar being Hocevar. But I thought today might be his day where he breaks through. But so when we get into stage three,
well,
we
we
go ahead.
can't get we got to call Larson an idiot real quick before we
Yep.
get to
So
stage
let's
three.
go to the end of. Yeah, let's not skip stage three yet. So the end of stage two, we're coming to it, and like Larson said, it's kind of like a blind spot. He didn't see him being down there. Now, you listen to like all the different radio chatter and everything. Did his spotter tell him he was down there at all, or did Larson just go for it and nobody said a thing? That's the only thing I
I
did.
I so I sent you the video over the thing, but it's so when they went into three, he pushed to 24 into three.
Mm-hmm.
And when he did that, he backed off a little bit. When he backed off, he was clear. He
Mm-hmm.
never said clear, but he thought he had cleared the 45, and he had. But his spotter was telling him something, and he didn't say anything about cut low or nothing like that. He just figured that Larson would stay on the high lane and go around the corner and finish third or wherever he's going to finish for the stage. And out of nowhere, Larson just dives down and he said that he was trying to make it a shorter way to the start finish line. And it's like, why? You've not done that the entire race. There's no need.
Yep.
And he never cleared him. And then all of a sudden he's like, Carlo, Carlo, but it's too late. But as sharp as he turned it,
Yeah.
and what it was is the 88 the moment he started turning, the 88 got there. It was just like a perfect timed deal. So he starts cutting it, and the spotter has to key up real quick, go, Carlo, Carlo, still there, or whatever. And it's just a bonehead move by Larson. There's no reason to cut. Um, I Something that came in my mind was this guy runs sprint cars without a spotter,
Yep.
and then he does something like this. Like, it doesn't make any damn sense. And now who knows where he's at in the points. I haven't looked, but he was 15th coming in. Yeah, he got 8 stage points, but then he finished 32nd. So what did he get? 16 points, something like that.
Let's see where
Eight.
Larson finish.
So he's
He
probably
got 13 points.
okay.
So that's not good. I mean, it's better than 1, which is what Stenhouse, Gibbs, and Barry got, but it's still when the winner is scoring 67 to your 13. It's going to be very hard. We talked in the very first episode and preseason lead into this. If you dig a hole early, you're going to have multiple perfection finishes to dig out. Like, there's not going to be a one race just bails you out of this situation. One mistake will take multiple top fives to overturn. If you have 2 mistakes, I think you can afford really 3 bad races in the first 26. If you have more than 3 like back 30 finishes, you might still make the top 16, but you're not going to contend for the championship. You're going to be
Yeah.
too far behind in those points, that 100-point spread. So, yeah,
I'm gonna see if the points are up yet. I doubt it.
I'm just looking at the race points, but the fact that he only scored that many, and it's yeah, just you can't
So
afford to be where again when your competition stumbles, don't interrupt them. Well, when you're having a good day, don't, like for example, last week Chase Briscoe got in trouble at Daytona. Well, this week he scored 43 points. So that's a hell of a rebound. It averages
yeah,
out to 20 points a race, but that's what you need to do. And that by no means catches him up in total points earned. He's still way back when you consider Daniel Suarez has more points than him at 63, just in the 2
who are
races,
we talking about?
which is the duels. So
Who are
uh,
we talking about?
I was just talking about like Briscoe, for example. So Chase
Yeah.
Briscoe only earned 1 point in Daytona and he earned 43 in this one. So he's got 44 points. So it's basically like getting 22 points per race. Daniel Suarez, who's kept his nose clean, has earned 31 and 32 points respectively, has a 20-point advantage on him just because of that 1-digit van, with
Yeah.
63. So when you have those kind of things happening, staying out of trouble in the first 2 races, Tyler Reddick has 125 points just from those 2 races
Yep.
by winning both of them.
Yeah, and Larson fell to 21st.
Yep. So,
Like,
SVG has 65 points. Sorry, he has 39 because he had a bad one, but Hocevar has 65 points from those 2 races. Like the point being, you cannot afford to give up, uh, you know, single point days or even sub 20-point days, really.
Tyler Reddick, after 2 races, has a 1 race buffer, pretty much.
Yep.
I mean, not a full race buffer, but it might as well. Crazy.
Yep.
But anyway, I had to bring up the Larson thing. DNF from running, he's running third and decides that he's going to block. Like, there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
Just stupid. Like, he needs to get his head out of his ass. But yeah,
Yeah.
that took me into stage 3, and kind of wanted to go start with this one. The 97 spins out, doesn't hit anything. We saw in the O'Reilly and the trucks, people's single car spin, no caution. Well, we had 2 or 3 today, and we couldn't wait to hit the button, and it just makes no sense to me. Like, get some fucking consistency,
Yep.
for Chris. Like, just
Well,
there's no
I said it
reason.
last week. NASCAR is, if NASCAR is nothing else, they are consistent at being inconsistent. Always. So, I'm not too surprised that that's how it rolled out. I'm not happy about it, but that's not any different than any other year so far with NASCAR. But they did mention last week, and this, it's the same this week. We have different race directors for each race now, for each series, but the same race director, I believe, calls trucks and Grand National, where Cup has its own. So take that for what you will.
So we we get to a point where William Byron gets loose off of 2,
Yep.
and I guess he thinks he's got a flat tire, and instead of waiting for I thought what Larson did was completely idiotic. This trumps that. I'm sorry. You're gonna you're not gonna wait for the entire field to come by. You're just gonna try to blend through cars going 10, 15, 20 mile an hour faster than you, and then eventually catch what right down here about make a 9 car wreck because you can't be patient enough to wait for the field to go by.
Yep.
That was completely stupid. Just I think I think NASCAR needs to talk to all these drivers and go, can you all just start thinking while you're out there just a little bit? But that wreck, the wreck, the first wreck the 3 was in, uh, the 35 got into him, Like let out of the gas instead of staying in it and going up the track. Let out of the gas, regroup, and go back at it. Like half these wrecks today didn't, or over half of the wrecks didn't need to happen. Just get out of the gas and they don't happen. You know.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree.
I would.
I
Yeah.
wasn't sure, watching the replay with the Byron one specifically. You saw where he and Cindric bounced off each other. Cindric was super. Don't get me wrong. Every driver out there was super aggressive, some more than others. Cindric was extremely aggressive and trying to keep his spot and not go backwards. He bounced off Byron several times, and you saw Byron's tires were like greasy black, no letters on them whatsoever. So I wasn't sure if Cindric, ultimately cut down a tire. But you don't see tires get cut down from these bodies very often, so it's a possibility, but not something I would have expected. That led to Byron, doing what he did. I agree, it was boneheaded not to wait, just like he was a bonehead last year in the freaking series finale.
Yeah.
He's this is twice now in 3 races where Byron, regardless of how good he is, showed that he's got his head up his ass when he puts that helmet on sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and, which is not good considering how good he should be and how good he's supposed to be. He's definitely not showing that he's the caliber of driver with his decision making when things don't go his way that he should be, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
That's 2 in a row where he's, or 2 out of the last 3, where he's basically, when things start to come apart, instead of looking at the bigger picture and how it impacts your competition or even yourself, you just say fuck it and
Yeah.
and cause a hell of a mess. So, all right.
That
So
gets
now we
us to
get
the
to,
green white checker.
yep. So we get to the green white check. Well, we're leading into the green. Byron and Cindric there. They, if it weren't for that, that was going to be a hell of a finish. First off,
Yep.
the way the racing was going at the front, with the guys with 4 tires versus the front. Does Bubba Wallace manage to pull it out, etc. So now we get to the controversial part of the race, like the really, really controversial part of the race. We line up for the first green white checker. They fire off. They don't even make it through the tri-oval, and so to me, the first part of the problem. Everybody's going to want to
Make
blame
and bake.
Kosovar. That's their choice. The very first part of the problem that I see is they come through the tri-oval, and instead of staying on Bubba's door, Bell bleeds open. Okay, so now you're starting to open a gap. On top of that, now you add to the fact that Chastain and Hocevar both have 4 tires to these guys that all have none. They get a better launch. They push Hocevar forward. Hocevar, and this is where I don't blame Hocevar. You've already seen every single time in this race today, if Hocevar gets a run, he's not staying in line. He's taken. So he got that run with the help of Chastain. The hole started to open. He went. Bell tried to close the hole as Bubba also came up. So there's multiple parties guilty there, but I don't think it lays slowly or solely at Hocevar's feet. But because of Hocevar's reputation, everybody's going to blame Hocevar, unfortunately for him, which is wrong because,
From
I
what I
mean,
saw,
yeah,
the one was getting a push from the 7, and he had like, what was he going to do? Like,
right. I mean, so you had, and to set it up worse, so again, we've shown all day, or all especially all stage 3, all the moves that were extremely entertaining to watch with Hocevar. Every time he got a run, he would jam it in there between the Penske cars, between the Toyotas, whatever. He was like, "You're not forming a wall. You're not going to block me like you did at Daytona and do what Toyota did." So Toyota lined up at that restart and made a blockade. They had Bell, Bubba, and Reddick, and Bell pulled away, and Hocevar saw an opportunity and he took it when he got the push for the run. I don't see any fault there. You opened the door, and this is for the win, and wins mean a lot in this, especially in the new points format. And so I think there's multiple, people, a lot of people made mistakes, not just Hocevar there. So that's what I have to say about that. So first, and then I'll give you an opportunity to talk about that, and then we'll go to the next restart.
I mean, I already said it. It they want to put blame on Hocevar, but like if the 1 is pushing him and the 7 is connected to him, like if he backs off, you're gonna cause a wreck anyway. Like he was screwed no matter what he did.
Right. If he doesn't take the run,
Like he
he
did a
probably
lot of
doesn't win the race.
stupid shit today,
Yep.
but that one is more on the 7 and his spotter because I don't know what everybody else does, but when I listen to Larson, his spotter says uh half, like he'll say half in front or connected in front or something like that. And it tells Larson, what's going on in front of him because he can't see through the car in front of him. So
Yep.
the 7 spotter should have said connected in front or whatever, because that creates a situation where they can't do anything about it. Um, I don't know. I wrecks like that where they want to pin it on one guy, but really it was the guy that was 3 cars back, and they don't ever mention it. Kind of aggravate me, but that's really all I got on that wreck.
Yep. All right. So then we re-rack them, and now Hocevar's the lead car for the Chevy Brigade up top, and Bubba's the lead car on the bottom, and he's got Reddick behind him. They take off. Bubba gets ahead of steam, and to me, this is where Bubba lost the race. He treated this like you treat Daytona, and this is not how you race. You can't race here like you race Daytona because you don't we've seen it all weekend long. The person out front, other than the trucks, you're not really, unless you have a helper directly behind you, and this is where he made his mistake. You can't control either lane by yourself. With the way, especially with the way this car is and with its drag, if you try and do that by yourself, what happened tonight is what happens to you. So Bubba immediately leaves his teammate before they really are all the way up to speed. And again, you should know who you're racing. As soon as he left his teammate and opened that gap, Hocevar filled it. Exactly what I expected him to do, no less. He got a run, he took it, jammed it in there. And they pulled each other back, and then Bubba goes cycling back, and that allows Reddick to get out front. And honestly, I didn't think Reddick was going to make it back to the line with that fender missing. I still don't know how he made it back to the line with that fender missing, with that big old hole of drag in the car. But I mean, he drove masterfully. And to me, the biggest mistake was of all the people on that restart was Bubba leaving his teammate. And then to see him pouting after the race with his back turned to the fans and Michael's trying to console him and he's just acting like a fucking child makes me want to root against him so hard, which pisses me off because he's a good driver. I want him to succeed.
Well,
But
I,
I mean, you did that to yourself. You left your wingman. He was going to push you
I
through to the win. Yep.
I think I think that he was not voicing what he really wanted to say. Um,
Who, Bubba?
which
Okay.
I give him grace for this because Hocevar, when he I think Bubba still could have won the race after losing the lead.
Yeah.
He went to the outside of Hocevar on the last lap, and Hocevar pinned him against the wall. Like, and he didn't mention it. He didn't mention it at all. I think that shows a lot of growth, but at the same time, that was something worth talking about. That was something going, hey, why are you block? There's a difference between a block and a block into the wall, and that's what he did. He shoved him in the wall. Like that's not acceptable. I feel
Yep.
like if he makes that pass on the outside, we're there's a great chance that he wins this race.
Oh,
But
definitely.
instead, he's in the wall and he's done. He finishes eighth, second in points, 40 back, but second in points. Great start of the year for
Yeah. Yeah,
2311
by no means am I
altogether.
like overall. I'm impressed. I
But
thought Michael Waltrip was going to have, or not Michael, Michael Jordan and 2311 were going to have the first. They do have the first two victories, but I thought they were going to have two of their first three of their drivers in victory lane in the first two races. Which again, when you consider where things were no less than 3 months ago, and before that, rewind 12 to 18 months, and we don't even know if this team is going to be here for this year based on how the lawsuit could have played out. For them to be where they are now with winning the first two races of the season is awesome. Good for them. That's great. Yeah, so Bubba's up to second, 80. He's got 85 points, but he's also way back comparatively to Tyler. But when you look at where everybody else is, like holy shit. So they're way
he,
back.
He's
You
got
know,
a 40-point lead over 16th in points, so uh, that's not bad either.
no, when
That's
you look at who's got points wise, so let's go to points total here. So, well, before we get into where things stand now heading into Coda, where there's less what we'll call organized chaos in our drafting racing and into points. Is there anything else you want to say about the Cup race before I do my
uh,
part?
so. What do you think about the reverse burnout?
I thought it was awesome.
I that needs to be that needs to be his trademark. He needs to do
Yep,
that
he
everywhere,
needs to stick with
every
that.
time.
He did a much better job this week than he did last week. And yeah, I thought it was cool. Just like Austin Dillon gets out and does the snow angel thing, SVG drifts around the track, like make that your signature.
Yep.
Because again, your personality, especially when you've got an owner and Michael Jordan that's 800 feet tall, and then you're this little tiny like chipmunk that drives a car. Like that was awesome. And again, he's got his son there in victory lane. This was a good story. Especially with how, again, we talked about it last week, but how Tyler Reddick's season went last year. You went from being the regular season champion to being not really part of the conversation all year last year. They're playing the turmoil within 2311 and the lawsuit and what was going on with his son and just all the different things to then come out this year. It just shows what a reset can do for you. A couple things change in the right direction. You get a couple things off the plate, and I mean, look at where they are now. 2311 leads the points with two of their three cars in the top. And honestly, if you got somebody other than Riley Herbst in that car, you probably have three inside the top eight. Riley's back in 23rd, getting caught up in that wreck, Toyota on Toyota violence. But put Corey Heim in that car. I think you got three guys inside the top 10. And
Yeah.
you're very much, the title runs through you early on here. So,
The last thing I have is Lionel has to work out for him.
yeah, they do. They
I'm
used
not
to
sure how they're
cut
going to do this. It's
panels off
probably
and
all
stuff.
just going to be graphics, but it definitely might be a car to have. Uh, Real quick with that, we all some of us saw that they have new ownership, so I'm kind of curious on how that's going to work out, if they're going to keep everything in place or not. But that's all I have for Atlanta.
Yeah. So on this part of well, I'm going to save it here for a second, but I do want to talk about Lionel here in a second. So as far as Atlanta, I had said it. And again, I know it's not for everybody, just like Daytona and Talladega are not for everybody. And traditionally, I hate drafting tracks because your things are not in your control. Fortunately for us, Atlanta is wearing fast enough where, yeah, you can be slingshotted every other turn and every move, but at least there's separation. You can create separation, and the guys can pass each other. Where you can't form a three wide blockade of fuel savings. That's one thing we didn't see today. When they tried it, when Hamlin and Reddick, it was Reddick, right? Was up front with him at the time, I believe.
Bubba. No, hold on. It wasn't Reddick.
It was Reddick before he wrecked,
Um,
wasn't it?
okay, maybe it was. There
Either
was
way,
a small there was a small portion at the beginning of stage 3 where I was pouting.
yeah, at the
Because
beginning of stage 3 where they were trying to form all up single file, and the rest of the pack said we're not doing that shit. And because the cars get the runs they can, it didn't take very long before once they did that, it didn't matter. They had to choose. Blaney and Cindric were able to work their way up there. Then they shuffled them out, and then here come the Chevys, and then here come the Toyotas again. And here comes Brad, and so just that's the one thing I'll say I like about this configuration with this car. I very much miss the old Atlanta, but you can also see very much, and if you're watching closely, we're going to be back there before too long because, as we talked about earlier, that surface is wearing so fast and it's using up the tires that if NASCAR doesn't change anything, we're going to continue to get that separation. And we saw it today. I think if it had been warmer, you would have had more separation because handling very much was a factor. You could see who after 20 laps had their work cut out for him. Joe Logano had his work cut out for him. Blaney didn't have the handling that he really needed, where like Brad Keselowski had great handling. Ryan Preece had great handling. Hocevar absolutely had handling. Um, you know,
I agree handling matters and what you're saying, but you still don't have anybody losing the draft. There's still a huge pack. There's no true separation. Maybe you can't pass who's in front of you, but there's no true separation like there was in the truck race. They were lapping packs in the truck race,
Yeah.
and that's what I want to see. I want to see a 10 car breakaway and something like that. Not these you got 30 cars in a pack that maybe half of them can't pass, but they're still there.
And I do think we'll get there with this car. I think it's going to take a little longer because of the design, the tire width, and all those things. But I think we can get there with the way the track is aging. I'll be interested. I'm really, honestly, what this does for me is just like last year, each time we go there, it changes just a little bit more. I'm really excited for the summer race.
Yeah, I am a little bit,
Here
except for
and
the fact
hot and
it's a night
greasy.
race. So it's a night race. So like, will that kind of kill some of what you're wanting?
Well, yeah, but I mean, anything, it's going to be warmer than what we had today. It's 40 degrees with 20-mile-an-hour
Yeah,
gusts.
that's
So
true.
it's
That's true.
definitely going to be a totally different picture
Yeah.
with some different kind of runs. So, all right. Before we get into who's what and where, I wanted to touch on that Lionel piece. So the Supreme Court overturned Trump's tariffs. I just want to know,
Oh,
yeah. So I know they're going to challenge it and everything, but somebody mentioned to me, I wasn't even thinking about it. But remember last year we did a tariff episode. Well, there was approximately $7 per car in tariff charges that we ordered from Lionel or Circle B or all these. I just want to know if I'm getting my money back since they were ruled illegal. They got all this
yeah.
revenue from tariffs, and you know, I ordered. For some people it's hundreds of dollars. Some people it's thousands of dollars. I just want to know
Yep.
if I get my money back. So
No,
obviously we're not, but
I'm gonna
you know,
go ahead and answer that. No.
I would like to see the companies now that they've been ruled or deemed, that kind of stuff has to go through Congress. I would like to see those companies roll those things back as soon as possible, because it very much affected how I order things, not just from Lionel, but from other businesses and industries as well. Because there's people that make sunglass lenses in Australia. Well, now I got to pay more for that, or like my other collectibles and stuff that come from like Malaysia and stuff. Well, I'm not going to pay $25 to $50 as a surcharge on top of it for a tariff. So that'll just be interesting. And like you said, they got new ownership, so we'll see what they do with the product uh, and where we go from here.
Yeah.
All right, so we're two races in. We'll just look at Cup primarily. Now let's look at who's in trouble. So,
Connor Zillage.
yep, we had a couple people that really, really needed to have good days after the first race. So, and they are of the full-time 36 charter guys. Connor Zilic is sitting at the bottom with a 14 whole points.
My God.
Todd Gilliland, and to put these in perspective again, folks, your race points leader has 125. So, and he has
It's
14
feeling
points.
like F1 over here.
The guy in 16th has 45. So there's still a 30-point separation between 36th and there. So,
Yeah.
Todd
So,
Gilliland,
but as far,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. As far as big name drivers, the first one that really comes to home is Christopher Bell with 25 points.
Yep.
He is 100 points behind first. I mean, not as far behind 16th, but he's got a hole to dig out of for sure, and he can do it. I believe he can do it. I believe he'll get a couple wins to, you know, get some points back. He's very good at Coda. He's very good at Phoenix. He's good at the next probably 10 tracks. So he'll dig out of it. But as of right now, he's probably looking at this same sheet going, we got to do something, boys.
Yeah, we're going into Coda where, now we're going to move into this, where basically Coda starts what most would consider the regular season. So if you're back here, like, okay, Ty Gibbs, 17 points. Everybody expects all four JGR cars to make the round of the 16 chase drivers.
Alex Bowman.
Ty Gibbs and Alex Bowman both. There's a 1 point separation there, 17, 18 points respectively. Both of those guys have a high bar to clear to get up in there. Um, Especially when you look at, and it's hard to make up points,
Yep.
every time. They'll be able to jump Cole Custer. Jumping Eric Jones is going to be a little bit harder. Jumping Cody Ware is going to be easy. Jumping Denny Hamlin, who's 15 points above you or more, not going to be so easy. Austin Cindric, who has 34 points, again, he's got almost double your points. Going to be hard to pass him. Even Josh Berry, who dropped 12 spots today with 34 points. Kyle Busch with 36. Riley Herbst with his 39. Like, it's going to take a couple races to move yourself up in these ranks. And as the season goes, mistakes like what Kyle Larson had today, Kyle Busch getting shoved out, you cannot have those kind of things as we go, because those holes are going to become harder and harder to dig out of, because your opportunities to acquire points are going to become less and less. And
Yep.
with the winning year being on, AJ Allmendinger has 43 points. Ty Dillon has 44 points. So if you just kept your nose down and finished the races, you came out of there with a pretty nice start out of these two races. Shane Gisbergen is sitting 16th right now with 45 points, and we're going to his wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan
He'll
Preece,
be
14th
up
with
to
50
probably
points.
6.
Yeah. Even with Byron's mistake, he's still 50 points. So to the good.
Mm-hmm.
Noah Gregson, who nobody's talked about, 50 points.
I don't understand that one.
I know, right? Ross
I don't
Chastain,
even see
51
him.
points.
Don't
Chris
ever see him,
Buescher
and
had Rex, 61 points. Brad Keselowski, 61 points. So some of these guys, the stage points are definitely adding up. Chase Elliott is sitting there nice and comfortable already at 81, and he was the best average point scorer last year for the majority of the season. Hurricane Hocevar sitting there with 70 points, comfortably in fourth. Zane Smith, who most people don't talk about, known for being very good at the drafting tracks, has a nice start at 71 points. And Joe
Zane's a good
Pagano,
little road racer.
yep, and
He's
Joe
not
Logano,
he's not the caliber of Connor or SVG, but he is a good road racer.
yep. And then let's look at, not really good enough to stay in our car at Trackhouse. 67 points to Mr. Daniel Suarez. That's a nice points accumulation for him in his opening stint with Spire there, where he's on the hot seat. Much better than his predecessor that was sitting in that car, and Justin Haley, averaging a 7th place finish overall so far. Very nice. He's 58 points back, but that's a hell of a lot better than 100 plus points back that some of these guys are. If anything, Connor Zillage is lucky he ain't competing for Rookie of the Year, because he's in a big ass hole if he was. So yeah, of the ones that are in the back, Ty Gibbs to me is the most concerning because of his up and down adventures for his first 3 full-time years. I'm less concerned about Alex Bowman because he's with Hendrick, and Hendrick hasn't had the kind of turnover that Joe Gibbs has had. We just talked about in the previous episode, the lawsuit, how we're going to see how that impacts things as we go. So Christopher Bell, I'm not too worried about. He'll, if anything, he may win COTA. He won it last year. So
Yeah.
But even if he doesn't, I feel like Christopher Bell should finish inside the top 10 pretty comfortably, as long as he doesn't get hurricaned again. But so anybody in that list that you really are concerned about from the back, other than the ones we talked about?
Well, I think I was about to ask you if I know it's only 2 races, but I don't know if it's this year or the end of next year, Alex Bowman's contract.
I think it's this year.
I wonder, like, we already shirred up Byron last year. We shirred up Larson for the next 5 years. Chase isn't going nowhere, unfortunately.
No, and I think he's still got a couple of years on his before his comes up.
If he doesn't make it back to the 16, or look like he's going to make it back, do you think they pitch him? Do you think that they bring in a Raja or whoever?
Well, that was going to be my question. Like, okay, I'm not saying he's irreplaceable, because he is, but the question is, who do you put in that car? Now, there's a ton of free agents at the end of this year that have yet to be re-signed. Some of them have already come off the table, your high-profile ones, but there's still plenty left.
Yeah. Both Raja and Corey Day are both on the Hendrick pipeline.
Yep. Well,
So
there's a
I
lot of
don't
free
know.
agents in the Cup garage, and there's a lot of free agents in from down below that you could fill this seat with. Again,
Yeah,
if they don't put Corey Heim in a full time car next year, I could see him getting stolen away, like just like some of these other guys at some point were stolen away
yeah,
from the Toyota pipeline because they didn't have somewhere for him to go. Um, there's a lot of talent out there that it just takes one switch for things to go the other way. Just the right move, the right combination, and you're in a better momentum, chemistry, all that stuff. So um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see as we go. But most impressive to me right out of the gate, because Tyler Reddick winning or being good isn't a total surprise to me. Winning two back to back is a surprise, just because of how last year went. I guess I really overvalued how much that performance decrease and all that stuff going on. So shame on me. But the biggest increase or biggest surprise so far to start the year for me is definitely Shane Van Gisbergen. Everybody likes to label him a road course master, and I really think the field would do well to pay attention because he's figuring this oval shit out. He's got a nice pile of points after two races, and we're going into his wheelhouse, and we have several of those coming, and he continues to show improvement. He wrecked twice today. Once, just the car stepped out from under him, and he was collected in the Larson's thing, and he still came back and finished sixth. So,
yeah,
discount him at your peril.
yep,
In terms of because he's already in the top 16, and we're going to now hit his wheelhouse and some other ones where he's going to have even more control over his car and his destiny. I think we all picked him to be in there anyway because of the road racing, but I think he's going to be in there just on overall performance at this point. And there's going to be a big name somewhere looking in like, how the hell did that happen? How did I lose my spot to this guy who is supposed to be this specialist in the old era, and now we're in this new era where you should be favored, and he came in and took your spot. So,
yep,
and then you got Ty Dillon sitting there, and he's basically like the Corey LaJoy of the season so far. He's just quietly, nobody's talking about him, not making a peep. 44 points, Allmendinger, which to me, the reason why I talk about those two, Colleague has no alliances right now. Now, I did hear Chris Rice say they signed something with Hendrick for some type of alliance. It's going to be very limited, obviously, because of the Ram deal. But the fact that they're essentially opening the season with no support from the manufacturer, and they are sitting there 17th and 18th in points, respectively, that's impressive. They deserve kudos for that. Especially when you look at where some of the other big names are that are back here in this list. So,
yep.
what do you think about the Joe Logano Hamlin deal, real quick? To me, that looked like Logano got loose, came up. They never really showed it, but it looked like Hamlin made contact with the 22 when he came up.
Yeah, he did. It looked like he was pinched a little bit.
Yeah,
I think that was one of those legit racing deals. I think just
yeah.
we got to remember they're going 180 miles an hour or whatever they're going, and
Oh, yeah. I don't think it was on purpose. It looked like he came up and Hamlin tried to move back, and there was nowhere left to go. Obviously, there's the wall and the safer barrier, and you're out of room. So,
yeah, yeah. I didn't think it was nefarious or anything like that.
yeah.
So you still feeling like a SVG kind of weekend this weekend?
I do think it's still going to be his race to lose. Um, yeah, I'm just going based off last year and the performance he showed. I think it's very much his race to lose with after how last year went where he swept the last four and or five. Yeah, sorry, the last because there were six last year, right? So he got five
Yeah,
wins. Yeah. So he swept the last five road courses, and that was after he figured out this car. Well, now he's had five wins and opportunities, and really there's been no changes with this car. So unless they bring something that he's never seen before, or the weather is somehow, like that torrential downpour that like we had that one year, he's the car to beat. for me.
Well, we do have
But we have some
the
guys that
Iowa
are
car.
that I think are definitely going to challenge him. Ty Gibbs challenged him in Mexico and was strong. Christopher Bell, Chris Buescher beat him at Watkins Glen 2 years ago. Who else? I think his teammate. It'll be interesting to see how his teammate does because he debuted there last year and didn't make it very far. But he's got a lot more riding on it and has to be more measured in his approach this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, I had Ty Gibbs in our preseason thing, and I'm wondering if I made a mistake there.
I'm still not. I'm not ruling him out yet because it's very possible. Just he's got a big hill to climb right off the bat, based off where he's at. And again, the nepotism thing within there. Gabe Hart left. And it's clear to everybody who's there that as time goes that you're going to have to do something about this because and it's just like, but the difference is Cindric won and has maintained his spot within Penske, but Cindric didn't own, but he was a team president. Yada yada. Cole Custer. Okay, so his dad is a big proponent within Haas, but when Custer didn't perform, he got shipped back. To the junior leagues, and Joe doesn't seem to be willing to do that, and that may be what needs to happen. If we go through a fourth year and Ty hasn't won yet, I think you have to have a serious conversation about who really should be in that car because he's had
Yep.
exceptional crew chiefs available to him. He lost Chris Gale, who then went to Denny and won a bunch of races last year, contended for the championship. He ran Chris Gabehart out of the building. And prior to that, who else did he have? Did he have Adam Stevens at one point too?
I think so.
So okay, who won championships with Kyle Busch? So my point is this: if we've gone through all these iterations, like we talked about with the third divorce type thing, he's clearly the problem. So either he needs to mature and correct, or he needs to go and go back down and do a little bit more seasoning. And progressing. And some people are just not cut out for Cup. There are people who, and this isn't a knock on, Elliott Sadler had some wins in Cup, but he wasn't anything spectacular to write home about. But he was great in Xfinity. Justin Allgaier didn't really do anything in Cup, but he's won tons of races down in Xfinity and perfectly happy there. You look at, the Sauter brothers and Johnny Benson and, all those guys that were in trucks for years winning, and Hornaday and guys that didn't really do anything spectacular in Cup or in the mid-tier in the Grand National Series, but made a hell of a career for themselves in trucks, winning and titles, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, not everybody's really cut out for it. But the fact that he's in Joe Gibbs or Gibbs equipment, top-tier Toyota equipment, and not winning if that comes to pass after 4 years, if I'm driving for that team and he's still there, but then like if I'm Chase Briscoe and I'm on the hot seat, but he's not, like, okay, there's something wrong there because
Well,
I'm not performing you.
not to mention, it might be numbered 54, but that's the 18. That's their
Yep.
flagship car, and it's
Yep.
not winning.
Yep.
That's the part I look at. Your flagship car is not winning. You have a sincere, huge problem.
Yeah.
I I'm like you. I don't know how much longer you can go. Not only just for team's sake, but for Monster. Like, how long
Yeah.
is Monster going to put up with not going to victory lane when you got Tyler Reddick over here going to victory lane 2 weeks in a row, stuff like that?
Yeah. And not only is he going to victory lane 2 weeks, he's going to victory lane 2 weeks in a row with your own equipment. And Bubba's right there behind him.
Yep.
And Riley Herbst is right there behind him in the Daytona 500. And, had he not gotten taken out by, his own, some other people, he probably is up there too. He was up there in the mix for a while. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to require some hard answers and discussions to be had as the season progresses. So,
Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to Coda. I need to look at the schedule real quick, but because I don't think everybody, Trucks are going to be out, right? They're in
They're
St.
St.
Petersburg.
Petersburg.
So that'll be the first doubleheader with Indy for the year. I think that's going to be cool. I'm not a big fan of trucks on a road course, but I think that'll be neat from the marketing mixing of open wheel, just that clash of groups. So we'll see what kind of what kind of energy that brings for that's both the series and the sport in general. I think all the motorsports working together is a good thing. So
I see us there next year with them and not going to Coda.
that would be fine with me. I don't particularly like Coda. I think it's too big, too wide. It was made for open wheel super fast cars. It's not made for stock cars. I think the narrower road course tracks, the Sonomas, the
I
wide.
think it would be a phenomenal track if they'd stop the track limits bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. If you let them, either you enforce track limits entirely or you get rid of them altogether. But you can't have like, I got track limits here, but not here.
Yep.
The half in, half out shit is ridiculous. And
Put
again, it's due to
turtles
the
up.
size and scale of the track. That track is so wide. You can run 3 and 4 wide. You can't run 3 and 4 wide at Sonoma, at Watkins Glen, at Road America, at Road Atlanta. At all the tradition at what was it? The one that was out there in California all those years ago. That they used
Riverside.
Riverside. Like you can't run the way that you do at Coda with that, which and then in turn creates passing. Coda, there's so many options. It just doesn't work. So all right, well, we'll see what comes from next weekend, and we'll
Yep.
see who digs their hole further and who finally starts their climb up out of the gutter.
If Bell and the 48 and the 88 all get incidents again, they're in huge trouble.
Yeah, if the 88, the 54, the 48, and the 20 don't do something, they're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
Because you've now spotted the rest of the field 3 whole races worth of points. And the people you're trying to beat are just digging or building up their mountain even higher. So, and most of the people you got to pass that you wouldn't expect to be up ahead of you have 3 times the points you do. So that's a couple stages and constant and consistent finishes while they also have bad finishes.
Yep.
So got to chip away 5 points at a time, 10 points at a time. But all right, we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in.